What's going on, college football fans? Welcome into another edition of Got It Covered. Giovanni Heater alongside Raza Umarani with you as we bring you a college football roundtable, a little bit of a roundup here as we move from week 11 into week 12. We're going to recap what we saw in week 11. We're going to talk about the second edition of the college football playoff rankings. We're going to preview some of the games coming up in week 12, and we're going to get you all set for your college football Saturday. Raza, though, first tell the people where they can find us on socials. And of course, as always, hit that like, comment, and subscribe button down below.
Yeah, find us at Got It Covered FB on all social media platforms. Obviously, been a bit slower the last couple of weeks. Just life happens, but we're going to be ramping it up as we get closer to the end of the season, as we get closer, obviously, to the college football playoff. So at Got It Covered FB on all social media platforms is where you want to be for all the action. But yeah, I mean, it was a very fun week. The games we thought might not deliver wound up delivering. There were some upsets. There was some movement in the rankings, which we'll talk about. All of a sudden, things are really dicey in the ACC, which I'm very excited to dive into. But like as it pertains to last week, I guess the place you got to start is like the top teams fending off upsets, particularly in the Big Ten, right? Indiana escapes Penn State in incredible fashion, and Oregon escapes Iowa in a monsoon in a pretty dramatic fashion as well.
Yeah, no question. Let's go ahead and start there. Let's start out in Happy Valley with Penn State, Indiana. You mentioned these two top teams in the Big Ten outside of Ohio State being the ones to kind of fend off the upsets. We went into the week saying this could be a week for an upset ridden spell here, right? And it lived up to that hype a little bit with the teams that were supposed to come out on top still coming out on top. There were points in this game I thought Penn State was going to come away with a win, right? Had all the momentum. They're at home, and you're sitting there thinking, no, like this can't be how it happens for Indiana, right? I think all of America is behind Kurt Signetti, Fernando Mendoza, this entire Indiana team, right? They're dealing with some injuries right now in Bloomington. They take the show on the road. There is nothing more dangerous, I think, in the sport of college football than a team that has an interim head coach with nothing to lose, especially when they're playing at home in a place like Happy Valley, because the place was a zoo. James Franklin's been gone for weeks. There's nothing more for them to lose there, and yet they still come out with this relentless hunger. It's one of those places that you're always going to play for the I would say the logo on your helmet or the jersey, but there's a lack of a logo on the helmet in Penn State. But you're always going to play for that tradition, that
Yeah.
brand. It means something to wear a Penn State jersey, to be a Nittany Lion. So you knew that you were going to get Penn State's best. Didn't quite think their best was going to be competing with a team that, quite frankly, we've seen mop everybody all season long. Their closest game to this point had been against Iowa, who has a good defense, right? And Penn State has not shown a pulse like this against anybody this year. Raza, was this more kudos to Penn State? Was this a strugglesome game for Indiana? How do you take it? And then what an unbelievable end to the game with Fernando Mendoza engineering a beautiful game-winning touchdown drive with one of the more unbelievable catches you will see all season, if not in this decade, right? It was that kind of a magical game. It keeps them undefeated. Everything still looks like we're pointing towards 12-0 versus 12-0 Ohio State, Indiana for the Big Ten championship game in a couple of weeks here.
Yeah, for me, it's a little bit of both because you give kudos to Penn State, particularly in the second half. The first half, Indiana was able to do their thing. And then the second half, something just kind of flipped, right? Where Penn State's defense is keeping them in it. Indiana's offense isn't. They're not in the same groove that they were in the first half. And then there's the big sequence in the fourth quarter where Penn State, down by 10, scores a touchdown, picks off Mendoza, and then scores again to go up by 4. At that point, I was like, there's no way the momentum has swung too far in Penn State's direction.
Yeah.
And I don't like with the way that the crowd had been involved, with the way Penn State's defense was starting to play, and particularly with the way that Penn State's offense was finding a groove, running the ball really effectively with Katron Allen, Nick Singleton. But then Ethan Grunkermeyer was like actually he looked the part for the first time since Drew Aller got hurt. And you're like, all right, I understand why this guy was a highly touted recruit and he's clearly a capable quarterback. Then, Indiana goes down by 4, gets the ball. I think they went 3 and out, right? Or they had to punt it back with like 5 minutes left. Or so they got the ball originally with 5 minutes left. They punted back with 3 timeouts, needing a 3 and out. And I'm like, man, all Penn State has to do is run the ball, which they've done very effectively in this fourth quarter. Indiana does get that stop. They get the ball back with very minimal time left, and then they just go bang, bang, bang. Fernando Mendoza has this 5 completions on the drive for 87 yards, and obviously the Omar Cooper touchdown. But that was like the culmination of like the whole drive was obviously leading to that from the throws Mendoza was making. He was sacked on the first play of the drive.
Yeah.
And
Yep.
people are going to forget that. He was sacked on the first play of the drive, and then on like 2nd and 17, just rips one over the middle for a first down to his tight end. He hit, I think it was Becker on the sideline where he puts it up where only he can get it. He goes up and snags it, brings down a foot in bounds. And then, of course, the throw over the middle, under pressure, takes a hit, gets it somehow to Omar Cooper, who somehow gets a foot down in the end. It looks like his right foot's gonna touch down out of bounds, but he like lifts it up in slow motion, taps down the left foot. The touchdown's good. I feel like I'm in the minority here because everybody I've talked to says otherwise. It looked like a touchdown for me live, just because sometimes when it's very thin on the margins of if a guy's in or out, I like that it looks like he's in my opinion. So I when he caught the ball, I was like this, waiting for a signal. Then I hear Gus Johnson go crazy because the referee signals a touchdown. I'm like, okay, dang. And then the replay was just remarkable. So it's more to me, this win, about the gumption of Indiana, because people in the media or on Twitter or whatever that were like, oh, Indiana should be moved down in the rankings because they struggled to beat Penn State. I think there's a difference between struggling to beat a team and finding a way to beat a team. It's not like this was a home game where they were favored by 30, that there was like a slog that they had to put together a game-winning drive and win 13-10. Like they controlled the game for the most part, and then when they got punched in the face, they delivered the knockout blow.
Yeah.
And I think that carries a lot more weight than struggling to beat a team. And also, Penn State is bad. They've now lost 6 in a row, but we know that team's talented. We know they've got NFL guys on both sides of the ball. So we're saying this every week at this point. It's the most impressed I've been with Indiana in this 2-year run. Like, it gives me hope that if they have a situation like this against Ohio State or in the playoff against anybody, they're going to get it done in the end. They're going to out, because Mendoza, man, he's cold-blooded. That kid is hilarious after the game, but he is a menace in between the lines.
What I thought was most impressive, piggybacking off of what you just said, was Mendoza himself. You got to remember, he hadn't accounted for a passing touchdown until that final drive in the game, and he had thrown that crucial interception, right? So he's gone touchdown to interception ratio with a pick, hadn't accounted for a touchdown yet to that point. He's playing without Surratt in this game. I mentioned the injuries. That's huge. That's his go-to guy. Like, if you're thinking game-winning drive, remember how remarkable Surratt was and how dynamic that connection was really all of the second half in the Oregon game a couple of weeks back, right? You're without Surratt, and he still finds a way to engineer this drive down the field to go win the game on the road in Happy Valley. You say the word gumption, it's the perfect word. And I think it does embody the entire team, but with even bigger props to the quarterback, Fernando Mendoza. So I don't feel any differently about Indiana. I still think they're the wagon we thought they were. They found a way.
I feel better about Indiana because these are notches in this is a feather in your cap, in my opinion. Yeah. I'm not gonna knock you for this in any way, and I'm glad the committee did the right thing and didn't move them.
How about the team that some may have said they thought should be ranked higher than Indiana, which is Texas A&M, who is third? We've talked about how we feel like there's a pretty fair argument for any of the top 3 teams to be the number 1 team in the country. They're pretty interchangeable. It sits Ohio State 1, Indiana 2, Texas A&M is 3. I think there is something to be said for the fact that Texas A&M has once again gone on the road against a ranked top 25 SEC opponent and just absolutely taken the belt off. 38-17, the final score. They take it to number 22, Missouri. Just dominance across the board in the whole game for Texas A&M. Their pass rush is unbelievable. They do such a nice job of making everything difficult for opposing quarterbacks. They only amount 2 sacks in this game, but they were disruptive all afternoon long. 7 tackles for loss. And then you look at what they do offensively. Marcel Reed, keep the chance going. 20 of 29, 221 yards, 2 touchdowns through the air. And then on the ground, 5 rushes, 29 yards. This was actually one of his quieter performances on the ground, but that's because Reuben Owens had 13 carries for 102 yards and 2 touchdowns. A crib call from 57 yards out was kind of the nail in the coffin. I understand Missouri was without Bo Perbula. The one thing that Missouri was able to do was somewhat run the ball, really only on 1 drive. Other than that, Texas A&M stifled. It was again dominance across the board against a ranked SEC team.
Yeah, it was unfortunate for Missouri because they're dealing with all sorts of problems right now.
Right.
But I mean, you said it. It's very ho-hum for Texas A&M at this point. They can go on the road against a ranked opponent and Fetty Wap them in their own house, right? 1738. Like, it's a testament just to coaching and to all around talent. Because again, I think you said it right. They beat you we've said previously that they can win in different ways because we've seen them win in different ways. And then there's a game like this where more so than the LSU game, in my opinion, they win in every way, kind of all in one. Like they were dominant in the pass rush, even though they didn't get many sacks, as you said. Yeah, they could have done a better job at containing the run, but their secondary was locked down against an admittedly shorthanded passing attack. And then their weapons are just weapons. Like Marcel Reed doesn't have to run the ball like crazy because he's got Reuben Owens and Le'Veon Moss doing crazy things behind him. They get the screen game going with Concepcion, who takes one to the house. They hit deep shots. They hit in the short and the intermediate. Everything is working right now. And on the one hand, I'm like, oh, what's it going to look like against Texas in a couple weeks, who's a legit defense? Or what's this going to look like against Bama or Georgia, whoever in the college football playoff? LSU still has a pretty good defense, and we saw what happened a couple weeks ago in Death Valley. So, like, they are the top 3. The reason why the top 3, in my opinion, is so separated from everybody else is because I don't see any flaws with the top 3. They're the only ones that, if they have flaws, they've not shown themselves on a football field yet. Like, I don't think that, again, Indiana struggling, quote unquote, to beat Penn State, or if you even want to go back to A&M against Auburn, like that was a slugfest, or Ohio State against Texas, that was a slugfest. Like when I watch them play consistently on Saturdays, what I see is just a better football team than everybody else that I watch. Like, I don't know that Texas A&M would have struggled in South Carolina like Bama did, because that's an example, in my opinion, of a team struggling, but they did find a way to get the win in the end.
Right.
Or Georgia against Auburn, for example, or Ole Miss against Washington State. Forget the SEC. So, like, I think that's what separates them from the rest. Is the word flawless comes to mind. I don't know team is perfect, but these teams are undefeated, so they are technically perfect right now. It's like the old remember the Titans quote where he's like, you demanded perfection of us, and we haven't lost yet, so this team is perfect.
Right. And you're probably looking at the 3 Heisman frontrunners right now in those top 3 teams. Mendoza,
and Simpson.
Reed, Sayin, and then who
And
else would you say?
Simpson.
Yeah,
Simpson's second or third in the Simpson's, I think, higher than
that
Reed
makes
right
sense.
now in the odds.
That's fair. Valid. Yeah.
But you're right.
Jeremiah Love might have something to say about it.
Yeah, Mr. Jacob Rodriguez might have something to say about it.
Hey, if there's a defender, it's him. And honestly, with that, that's the perfect perfect segue. Let's talk about Texas Tech. They were double-digit favorites, Raza. This was a big game, though. College Game Day, of course, was there. What a scene in Lubbock. They take care of business. 8th-ranked Texas Tech takes it to 7th-ranked BYU, 29-27. The double-digit favorites prevailed in every way. Dominance across the board. BYU didn't even score till the fourth quarter of this game, and it was well under wraps by then. So Texas Tech is legit. I continue to watch them and ask how the heck did they lose in Tempe, honestly, because they're legit.
Nobody walks into Sun Devil Stadium on a Friday night.
Well, and that was a Leavitt-led, Arizona State team. Like, that's not to take away from Arizona State. It's just like Texas Tech has quite literally dominated everybody they've played except the one game they lost.
Yeah.
Like every other game is so lopsided.
And that includes Utah on the road.
Yeah, exactly. Like every game has been so lopsided for them.
What stands out to me, honestly, more than anything else, in the Big 12, they just look, I know this is a basic word, but like better than everybody else. Like they look like a higher quality football player with a higher quality football team with higher quality football players. It looks like you're watching varsity versus JV when BYU goes up against Texas Tech because they're bigger and they're stronger and they're faster. What stands out to me about Texas Tech is they feel very fast. Across the board. It doesn't matter who's playing quarterback. It doesn't matter who's getting involved in the offense. Like, I've seen them now do this again with multiple people under center, with plenty of people being the focal point of the offense. They've just got it figured out right now. Again, in the preseason, we talked about, like, if it's one thing to pour in a lot of resources and bring in all these guys from the portal and hope it works. It's another thing when it actually does work. And they remind me of SMU last year in that way. And they're going to have an SMU type season, except this time they'll probably actually win the conference. This is a playoff team, barring some sort of massive collapse down the stretch. And I think they're going to be a contender when they get there because I think they have the speed to match up with these teams in the SEC. And on their best day, they can beat one of these teams in the SEC. So this was like, again, they were double-digit favorites, but if they did come out and handle BYU the way that people expected them to, it was going to be like, all right, they are legit, as if we needed any confirmation of that. And this was confirmation that, yeah, they're about their business. And I don't think they're going to – I'd be surprised if they lost the rest of the way.
I would agree with you. I think Baron Morton is probably one of the more under talked about players in college football, let alone quarterbacks. I mean, he didn't have an unbelievable game, 17 of 32, 219 yards, a touchdown. It was really the ground game, 149 yards on the ground as a committee. Cameron Dickey was great. Jacoby Williams had a nice game for him. What stands out the most, though, has to be the defensive side of the football. Just pure
dominance. They have a top 5 defense in the country.
Yeah. And it's led by Rodriguez, who, like I said, if there's a defensive guy in the conversation for the Heisman, it's got to be him with the mustache. Mustache was all over game day.
That was electric. Dude, I can't believe they banned the tortillas. Like,
ridiculous.
Could you imagine game day with the tortillas? And
what was the story behind that? Why did they do that again?
I think it's a
safety thing.
They will probably say it's a safety thing. I've not read the official press release about the banning of the tortillas, but I get it. You don't want to have tortillas flung all over the place. It's also probably a pain in the butt to clean up.
Right.
But at least it gives your stadium and your crowd and your school some personality.
Unique. Yeah. I'm pretty sure it's in the video game, isn't it?
I think it is in the video game, which is a lot of fun because it is cool. But listen, the return on investment is going to be great in general for Texas Tech. I mean, dude, you had Mahomes was in there going crazy.
Yeah.
I'm like, damn.
I mean, you got to understand. Yeah, too. Like, Mahomes is a global phenomenon.
Yeah.
Like, that's like having LeBron in the building.
Yeah. Like when LeBron goes to Ohio State games at least Mahomes actually went to Texas Tech.
He is an alum. But to have him as the guest picker, wearing the jersey, the whole nine. Yeah, it's a very big time look. That's not as much as you love like Luke Combs and people like that. Like, okay, like if Luke Combs is your celebrity guest picker at App State, that's dope. Love that for you. If, when Duke had
Ken Jong.
Ken Jong on, the comedian, right? Like that's awesome. That's fantastic. Love that. When Notre Dame had Shane Gillis on, I love Shane Gillis.
Yeah.
Shane Gillis is funny as heck. That's dope. But those are not global names like Patrick Mahomes. It's a different level. Like, holy crap, Mahomes is the guest
And
picker?
it's a football name.
And it's a football name. That's on top of it. So, yeah, the money invested at Texas Tech. This isn't like a 1-year fling. They're going to be in this spot for a long time, I think.
Yeah.
We mentioned it. Oregon picks up a top 25 win. They go to Iowa, get it done, walk-off field goal. Far from a pretty game. It was an absolute hurricane, might as well have been. A monsoon, had to be colder than heck as well. Absolutely miserable. It was pretty cool, though, to see Dan Lanning participate in the Kinnick Wave, if you caught that.
I did.
And Oregon got it done. Poor Iowa, man. I would hate to be an Iowa football fan, to be honest with you.
Yeah, because your whole
Zach
thing.
Mackey's.
Shout out. I'm sure he was very disappointed in the outcome.
I'm sure he's not listening.
Yeah, that's also very true. But you got to figure Virginia Tech's bye week. I mean, to be fair, there was he was in Mohegan Sun calling the Providence Virginia Tech game. So
he was calling a game that had a lottery pick that plays for the Virginia Tech Hokies.
That's true.
Neoklis Avdalis.
And we'll talk about him in due time, I'm sure. But I'm saying I don't think he was spending his bye week watching his alma mater play football because he was preoccupied. Two major things stand out to me about this game. One is it's funny. We think of Iowa as the school that's going to score the field goals and safeties, and it was field goals and safeties that lost them this game. If the long snapper doesn't snap the ball to freaking Field of Dreams in the first quarter, and the punter doesn't have to kick it out of the back of the end zone for a safety, the field goal at the end of the game is for the tie and not for the win, which obviously plays a big role. This is another situation of gumption for me, of grit, for this Dan Lanning squad, because they were up against it the whole game, and Iowa scores late on that fourth down call, which, listen, I'm not a defensive coordinator. I've never coached at any level of football and never played at any meaningful level of football, but sometimes you just know when a quarterback is going to tuck it and run. That was like, it had, I don't know that it was a draw or if he just saw it and ran, but I was like, bro, there's a lot of space in the middle of the field for bro to take off and run. Gronowski scores the touchdown, and I'm like, considering how anemic Oregon's offense has been, I don't know that they're going to be able to get their guy in a position to kick a game-winning field goal in these conditions. And what do? They do exactly that. And the play that stands out to me is Dante Moore's throw up the sideline. One of the best throws, in my opinion. I know Mendoza had a hell of a throw earlier in the day, but I attribute a lot of that more to the catch. Dante Moore's throw, threading the needle up the sideline, up the far sideline, I should say, to put them in field goal range. I was like, wow, that might be the throw of the season, let alone the throw of the day. Because that was, we say this often, but you literally could not have walked it down and put it in his hands any better. It was fantastic. Right. So impressed by Oregon's grit and resilience. Really gutted for Iowa. This would have been a nice win for that program. And now Oregon just, they keep on keeping pace, essentially. I think this was their toughest test. The rest of the way, they do still have to play Southern Cal, which could be interesting. I'm pretty sure that game is next week, or in 2 weeks, I should say. So I don't know that this was their toughest test remaining, but it definitely was one of them. And they passed because they've got a guy at quarterback.
And on top of it, they ran the ball for 261 yards. They actually
also helped.
Yeah, they outgained Iowa by almost 150 yards in the game.
Yeah, Whittington is a crazy back. He's like a total bowling ball.
Yeah.
So I don't want to take that away, but it was Dante Moore that won them the game.
Yeah. I think there's just something to be said for like the weather permitting. Know they're going to run the ball, and they still were effectively able to do so.
Mhm.
which I think is pretty impressive. They were one dimensional and still were able to lean on that strength in a way. Because Dante Moore didn't have to do much. I mean, he goes 13 to 21, 112 yards, didn't have a touchdown, threw a pick
And because
in the
they were
game.
without Decorian Moore and Kenyon Sadiq, like they were
Right.
shorthanded, and they were without their starting left tackle. Like they were very shorthanded.
Yeah.
The passing game was as hindered as it could have been from an injury and Mother Nature standpoint.
Yeah. Yeah, no question about it. Just kind of put a bow on things here. Georgia takes care of Mississippi State, pretty dominant fashion. Mississippi State scores 14 in the second half, make it look somewhat closer, but 41-21, the final score. It was pretty dominant in Starksville for the Dogs. Alabama takes care of LSU 20-9, the final score there in Tuscaloosa. Ohio State continues to do what they do, 24-point second quarter and a 10-point fourth quarter burst gets them on top of Purdue 34-10. Miami beats the snot out of Syracuse 38-10. Rounding things out, Wisconsin with an upset win over 23rd ranked Washington, for whatever that's worth.
Their leading passer was their punter.
That I didn't know. How about that?
They played 3 quarterbacks.
Oh, God.
That accounted for 16, 8, and 0 yards, respectively. And their punter on a fake punt had 24.
That I didn't know. That's a trivia question.
In the snow.
Yeah. There you go. Vanderbilt gets it done against Auburn. Actually, a heck of a football game, 45-38. The final score. Pavia accounts for 377 yards, 3 touchdowns through the air in the game. Then the two upsets in the ACC, which kind of translates us nicely into our next topic of conversation here, which is the updated college football playoff rankings for week 2. You had 2 of the highest ranked teams in the ACC. In fact, the 2 highest ranked teams in the ACC, and 14th ranked Virginia and 15th ranked Louisville trip up. We wondered if and when it would happen for multiple teams in the ACC. It happens to these 2. So you see where Virginia falls in the rankings to 19th. You see Louisville still right there behind them, one notch at 20th. Pittsburgh moves up. They're at 22nd. Huge game for them against Notre Dame this upcoming weekend. Now, it's more of a big game for Notre Dame with all the pressure off of Pittsburgh because it's not a conference game for Pittsburgh. Just ask head coach Pat Narduzzi. He said he would rather lose this game by 100 and win the next 2, being ACC games, than beat Notre Dame. Interesting thing to say, but that is something that came out of the mouth of Pittsburgh head coach Pat Narduzzi. Raza, what do you think about what they did with Miami here? Miami moves up 3 notches after a blowout win over Syracuse. I want to lay out an interesting scenario for you. What if we are looking at a situation in the ACC where the conference champ doesn't go to the playoff and instead Miami snags an at-large bid? Let me break that down for you. I think it would have to mean a team like Duke wins the ACC, which is far from out of the realm of possibility.
Right.
If Duke makes it to the conference championship game, they have a huge game against Virginia in Durham this weekend. If Duke makes it to the conference championship game, their most likely opponent would probably be a team like Georgia Tech. And what happens if a team like Duke, who currently is not in the top 25,
they have 4 losses.
What if they win the ACC championship? That probably knocks Georgia Tech out, right? Mm-hmm. And obviously, they're not going to get in as an at-large. They're not going to get in because they didn't win the conference championship. It doesn't read the power conference champs are the ones that get the automatic bid. It reads the highest-ranked teams, highest-ranked conference champs. Duke would likely not be a highest-ranked conference champ with 4 losses over USF, over maybe a team like JMU. I think there's a real world here where you're looking at Miami still having an avenue as an at-large, and the ACC's conference champ doesn't make the playoff. I mean, it's really starting to become very fascinating, and the sky is almost falling, though, if you're Jim Phillips, the ACC commissioner.
I don't think it's out of the realm of possibility because the ACC has been such a not disaster, but it's been such a mess, really, this whole year.
Yeah,
that would be the absolute cherry on top. It's also not a given that Miami gets there because what if they lose to Pitt?
You think Pittsburgh's going to run the table? And yeah,
or what if they go lose to Virginia Tech? Anything is possible. It's not out of the realm of possibility. It would not be surprising. It would be a disaster for the ACC. It would be a horrible, horrible look for the ACC and a little unfortunate, but at the same time, it would be kind of cool to have 3 Power 4 conferences and 2 Group of 5 conferences represented in the college football playoff. I've had that happen to me plenty of times playing college football 26 and 25 for that matter. I don't think it's going to happen though, because I just don't think Duke's going to win the ACC. And I think if one of those other teams does, namely Georgia Tech, Pitt, even Virginia, Louisville, like they're going to be in the position where they're going to be ranked higher than, I don't know, JMU or whoever. It's not over for JMU. It's obviously not over for USF. They're in the driver's seat right now. But I'm okay with them bumping at Miami. I'm okay with where they're at right now. I think they said it yesterday on the selection show. They said that they might have placed Miami a little bit too low when they were 18 last week.
Right.
They're bumping them above 2 teams that didn't play this past, or a team that didn't play this past week in Georgia Tech, and then a team that won pretty convincingly in Southern Cal, who beat Northwestern on Friday. I think they're like, this is more comfortable with where they want to put Miami, which is not too high in the top 10, like some people might think they should be because they beat Notre Dame, but not exactly closer to the 20s like they were last week. I think it also helped that Virginia and Louisville lost, right? Those are 2 teams you can bump down to help bump Miami up. So, again, like last week, I'm pretty content with the whole top 25. There are some teams closer to the top that I think are a little overrated. I shouldn't say closer to the top, but maybe closer to the cut line that I think are a little overrated. I still don't think Oklahoma's all that. I still don't think Vanderbilt's all that. I think Southern Cal is better than Vanderbilt. I think Southern Cal is better than Oklahoma. I think BYU, obviously, they were undefeated before last week, and they did beat Utah, so that's why they are ahead of them. But I don't know that they're currently better than Utah. I also don't know that they're, again, better than even
Vanderbilt
Miami.
would smoke BYU.
Yeah, I think Vanderbilt would beat BYU as well. And I still think a team maybe like Michigan is even better than BYU. So it's a little bit of a mess, but like based on the precedent they've set, I think it's fine. I also like not bumping down Iowa that much. Only moved them down by a spot after losing to Oregon in such close fashion. Like this iteration of the committee, I'm kind of vibing with, which is crazy because historically I've hated the college football playoff committee, but I don't mind this one.
How about Cincinnati in there getting that 25?
So which could boost the bottom line of the Big 12, which is because I feel like Cincinnati's played every contender in the Big 12 at this point.
Right.
I do believe that Cincinnati does play Texas Tech at the end of the year, or not Texas Tech. I think it's, who does Cincinnati play at the end? They have one of the bigger teams in the Big 12 left. Oh, it's BYU. So anything can happen in the wild Big 12 as well. That's another conference that could be on craziness watch.
Yeah. How about this upcoming week? What stands out to you? Some of the marquee games. I think you have to start with College Game Day. Number 9, Notre Dame travels to Pittsburgh. Noon kick on ABC. 22nd ranked Pittsburgh has everything in front of it. Dream as far as the opportunities go. It's going to be a fun 3 weeks if you're a Pittsburgh fan, but you're playing 3 ranked opponents. Their remaining schedule includes Notre Dame, Georgia Tech, and Miami. Absolutely brutal. But the path is there for you. If you win out in the ACC, you're probably going to the ACC championship game. And again, like Narduzzi said, this Notre Dame game doesn't really matter for them. Feels like all the pressure is on Notre Dame because they obviously cannot afford another loss to get an at-large bid into the playoff here. So what do you like about that game between these two?
Because of what Narduzzi said, I'm kind of thinking like
they're going to get smoked.
Yeah, like, are they even going to get up for this? Do they care?
I know.
Are they going to rest their starters? Like, what's going to happen here? Or is he just being Narduzzi? Is he just playing mind games? But like the vibe is severely thrown off, which is
Yes.
crazy how one sentence from a head coach can just completely change the perception of things.
Right.
Like, I don't know that.
The funny thing is he was like, right. He was like, I'm glad you asked that. That's what he said.
Yeah, I'm like, what? What? Why? So there's a reason I think why all the money's coming in on Notre Dame. Spread opened around 10. Now it's getting close to 2 touchdowns. Like, I think people are thinking the same thing. Like, maybe Pitt just isn't going to get up for this one, which is a shame because they should.
Yeah.
I'm hoping it's just mind games and Pitt goes out there and tries to hit them with their best shot, because you can still do quite a lot to boost your own resume and your own perception. And the loss is also going to knock Notre Dame out of the playoff. And I know that that might not be Pitt's prerogative right now. They're more focused on themselves. They don't have to play spoiler because they are in the fight themselves.
Right.
But I hope that they would care more about it. But it's hard to pick Pitt to win that type of game with the current vibes.
Yeah.
But I am going to give them the benefit of the doubt and say it'll be close. So the larger the number gets, the more I like Pitt to cover. But I also know that Notre Dame has so much more on the line. They have everything to lose. Pitt has nothing to lose. And I think that's why you're seeing all the movement come in on Notre Dame.
How about number 11 Oklahoma at number 4 Alabama in Tuscaloosa, 3:30 kick? I was a little surprised Alabama's only 5.5 point favorites here. I don't know if I'm insane. I'm just not high on Oklahoma at all. I agreed with you. I thought they're overranked, I guess I should say, at 11. I think one of my favorite bets of the weekend here is Alabama minus 5.5.
I don't disagree with you. I think this is a way of Vegas saying that we still respect Oklahoma's defense, even though the offense has been a little bad lately. Also, Vegas's way of saying the last time we saw Oklahoma's offense, it looked all right against Tennessee, and that's not worth nothing. So I think Bama wins this game, and I think Bama covers, but I understand why the line is the way it is. The world where Oklahoma wins is the one where their defense makes splash play after splash play. But in Bryant-Denny Stadium, I'm not going to bank on that to happen. So I think Bama wins, and I do think they cover a lower-ish scoring game,
Sure.
probably like 20-13.
Fascinated to see what happens between NC State and number 15 Miami. It's at Hard Rock Stadium. Miami 14.5 point favorites. Remember, NC State's the ones that handed Georgia Tech their first loss. So one to kind of keep your eyes peeled on. Iowa plays USC this
Yeah, big
weekend.
game.
Yeah, huge game out in LA. Kind of a must win for the Trojans, right? To keep afloat here.
You got to. And realistically, I don't know that USC has a path to get in as an at-large.
Yeah.
But if they keep on winning, they can stay in the conversation to make the title game if they beat Oregon, for example, and if Indiana slips up. Like, it's going to be
USC was big Penn State fans in the fourth quarter last week.
They were, and it's still an uphill climb, but Southern Cal, they've got a lot more to play for. Iowa coming off a toughie. USC again, longer rest coming off the Friday game against Northwestern last week, and their offense is just playing at a really high level right now. So I think USC wins that game, but I can also see a world where Iowa can push them around a little bit and throw them off their game. So I'm excited to see how Jade Mayava and company handle that, because they've been a really fun team to watch in the last month or so.
Friday night, Clemson plays at Louisville. I think Louisville takes care of business, but you can never count out the Tigers because they have the talent. Louisville 3.5 point favorite. So excited to watch that one. It's on Friday night. You also have Minnesota at Oregon on Friday night. I mean, Minnesota's 6-3, man. Like, does PJ Fleck and company make things interesting there? Oregon 25.5 point favorites. Does that surprise you, dude? They're playing a 6-3 football team.
Yeah, Minnesota's not bad. They've got They've got a really good running back. We saw him with our own two eyes back in January, Darius
Yeah.
Taylor. They've
I was
got
with
good
him in the
offensive
airport
talent.
after that bowl game.
That's true.
Yeah.
That's true. They've got a very talented offense, but Oregon is getting healthy and they're bound to get right. 25.5 is a big number,
Huge.
but I understand it. That's when I understand.
Okay. So would you take it?
I think I would.
You think you like Louisville to get it done over Clemson?
I don't think I do. I would take Clemson to cover with the hook, especially.
I wouldn't be shocked in the slightest if Clemson wins that game.
Yeah, me neither.
So, yeah, fascinating.
I don't trust Louisville. I think he's lost to Cal.
Yeah. A&M hosts South Carolina. I'll be at that game. Fired up. 19.5 point favorites in College Station are the Aggies. So that'll be dope. South Carolina is not a very good football team right now. So I have faith in the Aggies. That's a big number. I think that's a big number for anybody, but
could be Shane Beamer's last game. If they get crushed,
that's a Virginia Tech Hokie then. I hope
maybe.
Not. I hope not, actually, is what I hope.
For his sake, I hope not. But
I hope not.
Do you agree?
No.
That if they get crushed,
they're playing the third-ranked team in the country, though.
Yeah, but it feels like they're delaying the inevitable here.
I don't think he gets fired this year. But I don't know. South Carolina's fascinating. The pressure isn't quite the same as some of the other places in the SEC.
Yeah.
Like, what is South Carolina historically? Outside of the Spurrier years, there's not, you know what I mean? There's not much.
Colt.
Right. Big game in the ACC. Huge game. 19th ranked Virginia at Duke in Durham. We had already mentioned it on the program. Duke 3.5 point favorites. I mean, here's your shot, Duke. Still in the noise for the ACC crown. And Virginia coming off the heels of a loss. It felt like they've been flirting with fire the entire year. Finally burned them, right?
Mm-hmm.
What kind of Virginia team are we going to see on Saturday? I mean, if you're an ACC fan, nationally, nobody cares. But if you're an ACC fan, this is a big one.
Yeah. I don't think that nobody cares.
Okay, ask your SEC fans if they care, and they don't care.
They never. That's true. They never care about.
I don't think Big Ten fans care either. I don't think anybody cares unless you're an ACC fan.
True. Duke has a chance to turn the ACC upside down, and I think they're going to do it. I mean, I've said for weeks I think Duke's going to win this game. Darian Mensah is going to show y'all how it's done.
You heard him.
What's the word on Chandler Morris? Is he going to play in this game? Do we know?
Let's Google. Let's consult Google. I don't know.
He obviously took a lick.
Right.
Sliding.
He didn't play on the final drive.
That's right. Got knocked out of the Wake Forest game. That's why Virginia lost. Their backup quarterback played pretty well, by the way, but obviously just not the same without your guy.
Up in the air, hopes to practice Wednesday. UVA is hopeful to have Morris at Duke. Sounds like it'll probably end up being a game time decision, I guess.
Either way, give me the Dukies. Defense has to step up in this game. Their defense has to step up. Let Darian Mensah do the rest.
I honestly trust Manny Diaz. And I feel like he knows he's coaching to get a job. You know what I'm saying? Which maybe is for the wrong reason. But
they have a horrendous defense. So their defense is supposed to be their strong suit, and it sucks. If their defense was better, Duke would be a better football team.
But I just think situationally comes down to a late game situation. I trust Manny Diaz more than I trust Tony Elliott.
I agree with that in general.
He's been there more. So big game in the ACC. Really nothing pushes me like Trinidad Chambliss and Ole Miss. They're going to host Florida. I guess some people are excited to see what he looks like against Florida's defense. I just nothing about 3-6 Florida like makes me feel scared about Ole Miss and Trinidad Chambliss. Like I think they're going to be all right. They're 15.5 point favorites.
DJ Lagway got benched last week, so
crazy. Yeah, I mean, I am fascinated by the matchup. We know Florida has a pretty solid defense, so yeah, let's see what Chambliss looks like. But I'm not. This game's not a threat to me. Ohio State's going to host UCLA. They're 32.5 point favorites. Nico in the shoe, I guess, is like he returns
Oh,
to the shoe for the first time since he got murked.
crushed.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. In the
The
playoffs.
fans are going to let him hear it for sure.
Yes. And then of course the marquee matchup of the week, biggest game of the week. Didn't get game day only because they go there all the time and have already been there this year. But it's number 10 Texas at number 5 Georgia. Georgia 5.5-point favorites at home in Athens. 7:30 ABC. Herbie Fowler on the call. Turn it up. I'll tell you what. Arch has been playing better football the last couple of games. Seems like they've simplified things for him offensively.
Very much so.
You called it putting the training wheels on him, right? But it's worked a little bit. And Texas still has a solid defense. Georgia, I still don't fully feel that it's Georgia, like Georgia of old anyways. They're finding ways to win, but it's not Georgia of old. Texas is 11-3 since joining the SEC. Problem is you can throw that out the window when 2 of their 3 losses have been to Georgia.
That's
Both of
true.
them coming last season, once in the regular season, once in the SEC championship game, right? So it's like, but also it feels like Texas is catching rhythm at the right time. We had written them off like not a playoff team, right? And okay, well, here they are ranked 10th in the country, still with a lot to play for. And they're playing the 5th ranked team in the country on the road right now. They have everything in front of them. No question about it. So this is a huge game. I think it comes down to who do you get better quarterback play out of. If you said coming into the year, Arch or Gunner, who do you want? I think
You're taking Arch.
everybody would have taken Arch. But right now I'm saying give me Gunner, especially at home.
I agree.
And Gunner's been pretty good.
He has been.
Big game though, buddy.
The problem for me, it's kind of hard to trust either of these teams. They've shown too much Jekyll and Hyde this year, and
which solidifies your point of the top 3 or the top 3. And then honestly,
exactly.
I feel like Alabama's its own tier. You got your top 3, Alabama's its own tier. It's like S tier, A tier, and then you start everybody else.
Right. And Georgia's probably at the top of that next tier, obviously, but their defense has had games like the Bama game and like the Tennessee game and even like the Ole Miss game. The difference is that their offense has been fantastic in those games as well, at least some of it, the Alabama game, but then all of the Ole Miss game, particularly the end, and all of the Tennessee game, particularly the end. So
yeah.
2 untrustworthy teams. One of them is more trustworthy than the other. One quarterback's a little more trustworthy than the other. I know that Texas is coming off of a bye, but I can't sit here with a straight face and be like, yeah, I think Arch in his current state is going to go walk into Georgia and win this game. I don't. I think the spread would be a little closer if Texas had a little bit more respect. It'd probably be closer to 3 instead of 5.5 it is right now.
Right. Yeah.
So I like Georgia to win. And I think I like Georgia to cover because I think Kirby's got Sark's number. And listen, they walked into Texas last year, a better Texas team, and they smacked them. Yep. Schmacked. The final score, the final score margin would have been bigger if the referees weren't peer pressured by students and fans throwing stuff on the field. So it should have been an even bigger blowout than it was.
We watched that at the Palace.
I actually watched that one in Northern Virginia. I was not in Blacksburg for that one.
I could have sworn I was sitting on the couch right next to you.
We watched the SEC championship game together.
Yeah, I felt like I remembered the one where they were throwing everything on the field. I guess not. My memory has wandered.
Yeah, because I got me some Raising Canes that night. I was sitting nice and pretty, and obviously no Raising Canes in Blacksburg. They should get on that, by the way. Sure. So I think Georgia wins, and I probably like Georgia to cover because I think that they're going to come out, and Texas has a lot more to lose here. But I think it's close for a while, and then Georgia pulls away late.
Yeah, I agree with you. I think I would take Georgia. I think I would take Georgia at 5.5 as well. I think that pretty much wraps it up, man. Excited for another big week of college football. Excited to watch all these games. Bye week for the Qs. although I'll still be attending a game. Can't complain though. Get to watch top 3 team in the country play.
Yep.
But excited to watch that Texas Georgia game, that Virginia Duke game, and even that noon kick between Pittsburgh and Notre Dame. It definitely is a nice weekend slate. And I'm also fascinated. I like when game day goes places you're not used to. Like Lubbock
Right.
was awesome. Where else have they? I feel like this year's been a pretty mainstream year.
Yeah, it's been pretty run of the mill, to be
But
honest with you.
I do love when they go to Oregon because they're going there at like 6 a.m. and it's still dark
Hmm.
outside, right? So that hits a little bit different. It's especially when they do it in October, it's like spooky game day in a way, and the
Yep.
sun's
Like when
rising.
when they went to Salt Lake City.
When they went to Salt Lake City, the same deal. So that was a unique destination. Lubbock was unique. Pittsburgh's definitely unique. Curious to see what kind of a crowd they're going to get. There's probably going to be a ton of Notre Dame people as well.
Yes.
So that kind of dampens thing. We'll see. We'll see. It's cool. It's a cool destination. I don't know the last time they've been to Pitt. I should have looked it up, but I can imagine it's been a while. No,
Maybe since Kenneth Pickett was walking through that door.
did they go there at that point?
I feel like they did, but I honestly can't remember. It was a
Perhaps.
long time
That was
ago.
COVID
Many
though.
moons ago.
That was COVID though, so game day wasn't hitting the same. That was
I mean, they went to
2021, where stadiums were like half full sometimes.
stadiums were full in
Were
21
they?
though.
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah, I guess they were.
I mean, that's where that clip of Lane against North Carolina is always pulled out. That was the first game of the 21 season. So, and Pitt
That's
obviously won the ACC that year. So maybe they
right.
went, but I don't know. I can't.
Regardless.
It's all fuzzy.
Yeah, regardless, it'll be a fun weekend. Where can they find us, man? Oh, we already did that.
We did,
Tell
but
them again.
might as well tell them again. They can find us at Got It Covered FB on all social media platforms. And I mean, Gio said it best, right? For our YouTube audience, our bedrock, our foundation, liking, commenting, subscribing, boosting the bottom line, boosting the algorithm is always the play for us. So appreciate everybody who does that, and keeping the ball rolling into November. The sun's going down at 5 o'clock. It's a
Disturbing.
little sad, but
we
you
had
know,
snow. We had snow.
we had snow, which can make things a little more fun. And we got really, really good, exciting Premier football on, and that's also very exciting.
For sure. For sure. All right. Well, that wraps up our show for today. Be sure to stay tuned as well for our NFL coverage that's coming up. A lot to unpack there. Enjoy your college football weekend. For Raza, I'm Gio. We'll talk to you next time.